This podcast contains descriptions of violence against children and adult language and is not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Suffer the Little Children, the true crime podcast giving voices back to the victims of child abuse and shining a harsh spotlight on the parents, guardians, and caretakers who silence them. I'm your host, Laine, and this is Patreon-exclusive bonus minisode number 13, Tazmir Ransom. Today's minisode will be a short one, but this little boy deserves to have his story told. I've been following his story since 2020, and I only found out how the legal case concluded by digging through court records myself, because after the initial articles about Tazmir's murder, not a single news station or website ever followed up on it. Tazmir Ransom celebrated his 7th birthday on April 9, 2020, which was only a couple weeks after the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. At around 6:50 p.m. on Easter Sunday of 2020, which fell on April 12th of that year, medics responded to a report of a child having trouble breathing at his mother's home in the 2000 block of Clarence Street in Philadelphia's Kensington neighborhood. Tazmir was rushed to St. Christopher's Hospital for Children, where he was found to be suffering from multiple severe injuries. The following day, Tazmir's mother, then 26-year-old Natasha Charnesh Franks, was arrested by Officer Laura Hammond and taken into custody, charged with attempted murder. Tragically, on Wednesday, April 15, 2020, Tazmir, who was born on April 9, 2013, succumbed to his injuries. ABC6 reported that Tazmir was beaten to death. Prior to a vigil held on the evening of Tazmir's death, his paternal aunt, Tangela Pinkney, told a reporter, "It's just heartbreaking. He just turned 7. There was no reason for her to take his life. She wasn't supposed to have him. She could have just gave him back to us." Tangela, the sister of Tazmir's father, Jaleel Ransom, told the reporter she knew the vigil was against social distancing recommendations, but the grief over Tazmir's sudden and unexpected loss was too much for any of his family members to bear alone. According to Tangela, "It looked like he was being abused over the last couple months. My brother kept trying to go down and get custody back, and trying to do what he needed to do to get him." Describing her nephew, Tangela said, "He was just full of life. All the time, non-stop. He was just a good kid." As I mentioned, Tazmir's mother, Natasha, was initially charged with attempted murder, but according to Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, after Tazmir died, Natasha's charges were upgraded to include murder, aggravated assault, attempting to cause serious bodily injury or causing injury with extreme indifference, endangering the welfare of children, possession of an instrument of crime with intent, obstruction of administration of the law, tampering with or fabricating physical evidence, and unsworn falsifying to authorities. Natasha was held without bail at the Riverside Correctional Facility in Northeast Philadelphia. I wasn't able to find out what the instrument of crime was or even what Natasha was accused of doing to Tazmir, other than ABC6's comment about the little guy being beaten to death. An emergency arraignment was held in Philadelphia Municipal Court on April 16th. During an online news conference on Friday, April 17, 2020, District Attorney Krasner said, "These are times when we have real concerns about domestic violence and about what happens when people are sequestered in the home and under all kinds of stress." Natasha has previous convictions from 2014 for carrying a firearm without a license and carrying a firearm in public in Philadelphia. For that offense, she was sentenced to 2 years probation. In October of 2020, Natasha was seen in court for her formal arraignment, and then she wasn't seen in court again until she evidently pleaded guilty in May of 2021, but withdrew and re-entered a guilty plea 5 months later to only 3 charges: child endangerment, possession of an instrument of crime, and voluntary manslaughter with provocation from the individual killed. The plea is listed on the docket sheet as non-negotiated, but it appears the remainder of Natasha's charges, including murder, were dismissed. As for the fact that her voluntary manslaughter charge includes the provocation stipulation, I'd love to hear the prosecutor's reasoning on that, because nothing that little boy could have done warranted his own mother beating him to death. Now 28-year-old Natasha Charnesh Franks, Pennsylvania Department of Corrections inmate number PE4256, is currently incarcerated in SCI Muncie for 10 to 20 years on the manslaughter charge. Her sentence of 5 to 10 years for endangerment runs concurrently. She has also been ordered to enroll and engage in mental health therapy and grief counseling, as well as to pay court costs. Natasha is housed in the same prison as Christy Willis, mother of Jared Burgess, who was convicted late last year of the 2019 murder of 3-year-old Arabella Parker and sentenced to 24 to 50 years in prison. Jared's mother, Christy, was convicted in April of 2021 in connection with Arabella's death on charges of obstruction in child abuse cases, hindering apprehension, and making false reports to law enforcement. Christy was sentenced to up to 17 years for her part in covering up her son's beating of his girlfriend's innocent, defenseless daughter. I covered Arabella's story in episodes 16 and 17 of the podcast, and I'm hoping to cover it again in a comprehensive update episode after the trial of Arabella's mother, Samantha Delcamp, which is scheduled to begin with jury selection on May 9, 2022. As I mentioned earlier, after the initial articles covering Tazmir's death in 2020, there was absolutely zero coverage about the case in the media. Only by digging through the case docket was I able to discover Natasha's guilty plea and subsequent sentence. I did get in contact with the district attorney's office, but the only information I was given matched exactly what I read in the docket. This is exactly why I stick with these kids' cases the way I do. The media might forget about them after the initial sensational headlines, but we won't. I thought it was time to honor Tazmir by telling his story because April 9th would have been his 9th birthday, and April 15th was the 2nd anniversary of his death. Sleep well, Tazmir. We won't let you be forgotten. My sources for this minisode were ABC 6, People, Fox 29, CBS 3, NBC 10, The Philadelphia Inquirer, the Pennsylvania Unified Judicial System portal, and Facebook. That's it for this Patreon-exclusive bonus minisode. Join me next time for another story. If you like the show, please follow or subscribe to Suffer the Little Children on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast listening app. And please leave me a 5-star rating and a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. Visit the website at sufferthelittlechildrenpod.com. You can support the show by visiting patreon.com/stlcpod, where you can become a patron for rewards ranging from a shout-out by name on the show to exclusive gifts. You can also support the show at ko-fi.com/stlcpod. Follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Suffer the Little Children Pod and on TikTok at STLCpod. View photos related to today's episode on Facebook. This podcast is researched, written, hosted, edited, and produced by Laine. Intro theme music is by Dream Note Music, and all music for the show is licensed from audiojungle.net. For more information about preventing or reporting child abuse, visit childhelp.org or call your area's child abuse hotline. And remember, if you see something, say something.